Vodka in the butt. I said vodka in the butt. I said vodka in the butt.
My theme song.
You want to put it in my butt? In my butt? You want vodka in my butt? In my butt? You gonna put it in my butt? In my butt? Let's put vodka in my butt. Okay.
That would be a very messy parody video.
Welcome once again to Noah's Snark, where two former religious types and current snarks take a look at religious media on its own terms.
My name is Hillary.
And I am Josh, a.k.a. not as pretty as Jesse Metcalf.
Ugh, debatable.
Yeah?
He's boring.
Well, that's the nicest thing you've ever said to me. Hillary, what are we doing today?
Oh, we are doing a movie that I would have rather had never seen ever in my entire life, and that is God's Not Dead 2, the sequel to the other painful movie that we have already discussed.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Mm-hmm. Following up the amazing, hilarious, infuriating God's Not Dead, we have the sequel piece.
Yep.
This one stars Melissa Joan Hart as Grace, Jesse Metcalf as Tom, and Pat Boone as Extremely Old Guy.
Yep, I did recognize Pat Boone. I don't know what from. I didn't bother to IMDb him, but he looked very familiar. Yeah. Also, I can't place why I know Jesse Metcalf. I just remember him.
John Tucker Must Die.
That's it, which I never saw, but I was aware of.
Yeah. In the lead up to this episode, I said that Tom, or Jesse Metcalf, was Jesse McCartney, because I didn't know until yesterday, when I looked up the difference, that they are different people.
Uh-huh. I recall you saying Jesse McCartney, because I was like, why is Jesse McCartney in this? And I'm also like, maybe I don't know who that is. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, it's Jesse Metcalf. I just thought him and McCartney were, in fact, the same person.
Wasn't Jesse McCartney a singer? Like
yes.
A terrible teen singer?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
But I don't know enough about him to have known the difference.
Yeah, no, it's okay. That went over my head, too.
Yeah, but that's
and I don't feel bad about it.
Yeah.
That's some knowledge I'm okay with not having.
Alongside Melissa Joan Hart and Pat Boone, we're going to see God put on trial, and we're going to realize the error of our ways, I am sure.
Yeah. There
are also some very extra special cameos for the audience along the way. So we're putting up 10 Commandments monuments at every courthouse when we're done here.
I'm excited for the cameos that I'm not sure I know about. Oh, I know one. Anyway.
And to begin properly, first impressions, first things. What did you expect going in? Did you get what you thought? That sort of thing.
I expected to be disappointed in Melissa Joan Hart. Mm-hmm. And it delivered strongly.
Mm. Got what you wanted.
Girl had a lot to do with my childhood. Yeah. Clarissa Explains It All is one of the best shows ever. Mm-hmm. She's a fashion icon.
Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Which was also great. Not Clarissa level to me, but I loved it. I love anything to do with witches. Yeah. I wonder how she deals with having her past as a witch and now being such a devoted Christian.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's something she regrets.
I'm sure she doesn't for the money that it's made her. It's real nice to be like very settled and have those royalties coming in before you go the hardcore Christian angle. So then you always have, right, backup cash. But
all I know is it's a goal of mine to have Clarissa Explains It All on DVD eventually. It has been released on DVD.
So you just gotta get it.
I know. Gotta keep my Nickelodeon collection going.
Yeah, and my first impression was pretty easy because I've seen this movie before. Going in the first time, if I can recall, I expected it to be as horrible and ridiculous as the first one. And I remember it delivering on those fronts. This second time, I found it less entertaining.
Yeah.
Just boring and bad.
So boring.
Yeah.
So inaccurate and so bad.
Right. But it was less fun for me this time than it was when I saw it in theaters.
I'm sorry. I had a few cocktails last night when I watched it, so I had a little bit of a better time, but not really.
Yeah.
Not really.
All right, and so we open up the movie with a song about the glory of creation. And
thank God the Newsboys are back.
Yeah, and it's about how great and good God is or something. It's a song. It's a Christian song. You get it. as this is our background, we do a similar thing that the first movie did, and we catch up with all of our main characters in their day-to-day. So we meet Grace, who's played by Melissa Joan Hart, and she's also a teacher. And she sits on her front porch, and she looks at the wonder of the world.
Sure.
And we see Martin, the Chinese kid from the previous film, and he studies intently, while David A.R. White, the pastor, eats cereal and is clumsy as hell, and he smashes into a stool in his own kitchen as though he doesn't know where it came from.
Yeah, he's in his very own infomercial in the beginning of this movie.
Yeah, he also gets coffee spilled on him because he's just such a no-luck guy.
He's having a rough morning.
Yeah. We also see Amy, the sassy blogger from the first one. She's in traffic, or at least at a stoplight.
Cancer lady.
Cancer girl. Cancer lady. And she's looking pretty bummed at a traffic light, and then someone honks at her and she drives off. And presumably she looks pretty bummed out because she is still dying of cancer, which is, something worth being bummed out about.
Well, she's on her way to the doctor, correct?
Right. But presumably she's there for bad news.
Right.
Because she did have what we presume to be terminal cancer last time.
What they made it seem like.
Yeah. She wasn't like, I have cancer, I'm sick, I'm gonna be fine though. She was like, I'm dying, I'm gonna die.
Right.
Which is very different. Because if a doctor told you you're gonna die, your cancer is terminal.
Right.
Otherwise, they didn't say that to you, and you're, exaggerating.
Or they're like, you have a little bit of cancer, and she just overreacted.
I'm dying!
Why have you forsaken me?
And finally, in this montage, we get our catalyst for this episode, Brooke. And she heads to school. Her parents tell her that everyone is upset, but she has to get it together for her senior year. Spoilers for later. Her brother recently died, but her parents are atheists, so they don't feel things like normal people do.
Right.
But Brooke continues to be sad about it because she's not so atheistic and therefore less terrible.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, atheists, why would they be upset about their son dying?
Yeah, I mean, he's just gone literally forever.
Yeah, but he's just gone. So.
He's just a collection of molecules.
Exactly.
So he's just a dead collection of molecules now.
Right.
Being broken up by bugs in the ground where his body is.
Yeah. No, he's just...
Yeah, I mean, that's all reasonable to me.
Just back to the earth. No big deal. Yeah.
Bye forever.
Well, that's how I feel about it.
Nerd should have stayed alive. If you wanted me to miss you.
Now we have to pack up all his stuff and get rid of it.
I can't miss you if you won't leave.
You were a drain on our finances anyway.
So, back to Grace. She brings the incredibly old Pat Boone, who is her grandpa? Is he your grandpa?
Or grandpa, yeah.
Okay. She brings her grandpa, Pat Boone, some breakfast and his pills. He tells her to find herself a man because he won't be around forever.
Yeah. He's like, maybe you should find someone else to share breakfast with.
Yeah. And she's like, no, I don't wanna.
Yeah.
You're just my grandpa.
I'm dating you, Grandpa.
You, Gramps? At school, Grace talks to her teacher pals, and they're all jaded, but Grace is so optimistic all the time because she has the grace of God.
Yep.
It's a whole thing. David A.R. White's African pastor buddy and lover shows up and surprises him. They are reunited, and it all feels so good.
Presumed lover. Important to
we're
note.
Presuming, but it's a fair.
Yeah, also, he just pops in from another country. Just pops in.
He's like, I have been told I can complete my PhD here.
Yeah.
If that is fine with you.
Yeah. It's like, fucking throw me an email or something.
Don't just show up at my door. We now learn that Grace is such a great teacher that she plays games in her history class, and all the students get into it, and she, it's the whole thing, and the kids are excited, and she's so dynamic and interesting and fun.
Yeah.
She made history fun. And these kids had to actually debate about whether the first line of the Declaration of Independence came from the Declaration of Independence.
They really had to discuss it for a while. They did not get to that.
I would have been great at this game.
Yeah, me too.
Because I'm not an idiot.
I wouldn't have been involved with the rest of my class. I'm like, I got this.
Like, can I play by myself?
Right. I don't work well in teams like that.
Yeah, I'm not great at it. And after the class, Grace takes a moment to talk to Brooke to make sure that she is okay, because Brooke is pretty down, as we know.
Mm-hmm.
Brooke says she's fine, but later that day, she tracks Grace down and complains about her parents being so over the fact that her brother is dead, and then she's upset that she's never going to see her brother again. And then she asks Grace how she manages to never let anything get to her, and Grace's answer is very simple.
Jesus.
Jesus. That's how you say it, right?
Jesus.
Jesus. Jesus.
Yeah. In a tent revival, maybe.
Interspersed with all of this, we see Amy the blogger back at the doctor, and then the newsboys call her because they're very interested in her.
They're best friends now.
They are best. They prayed with her like once.
She attacked them. They prayed for her. Now they talk all the time.
Like, it's not she called the newsboys.
No.
He's in their tour bus.
Right.
Calling her.
Because he knew that she had a doctor's appointment today, so he's just checking in.
Right. And, even better, oh my god, it's a Christmas miracle. Her cancer has disappeared completely. Disappeared is the word she used. Yeah. Not she's in remission. Right. We don't know if she even went treatment. Like, we don't know how much time has passed since the last time we saw her, which seemingly was not that long ago. Everyone looks the same. Remember all that praying that happened at the end of the last one? Yeah. Well, it was very effective. The newsboys can cure cancer. That's what I learned. Yeah. I'm going to call them up. I'm just going to keep that, logged in my memory for the future. Back at home, Grace and Pat Boone talk about Brooke, and he talks about how atheism doesn't take away the pain, it takes away the hope. And also, the most basic human right is the right to know Jesus. And he has had 5 lines so far, and fuck this guy. I hate him. I hate him so goddamn much. Also, it is quite possible to have hope. We know that because we're not idiots. I know, but it's like that was very difficult for me not to yell at. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fuck you, Pat Boone. I'll give you hope. We learn a lot of things about atheists in this movie, and I'll do a summary at the end. Yeah. I'd like to think I'm maybe not an expert, but I'm an expert on mine. Yeah. And none of the things I was told were true. You were told... In this movie. Oh, in this movie. God, no. About atheism were at least in my case, accurate. Right? Or demonized. Yeah. I kind of like it. I know I'm a pretty hit shit person, but... Hit shit? I'm a hit shit. I'm so shit that I hit shit. You're not a shit person, by the way. I also want to point out that we notice here that apparently Grace and Grandpa just sit on the couch in silence in their free time, which is bizarre and unsettling. Because there's no TV. There's nothing happening. They're just sitting on the couch quietly. Then they have a brief conversation. Then he leaves. Yep. And then she continues sitting there. There's no book. No. She's not reading a magazine. No. She just sits in silence on her couch. Which is... creepy. Super creepy. Like, yeah. If someone does that, they're a scary person. Yeah. So I have a few theories as to why she's single. This is one of them. Yeah. Like she just sits there and quote. This is her idea of a good time. Oh, like she goes on a date and they're possibly talking at her. This is what she does in her free time. Silently. What the hell would she have to offer? She just like soaks into the chair. Gross. Like, yeah. No, not... I don't mean that's soap. You said it. All right. A truck comes by to pick up Brooke's dead brother's things. And she cries a little bit as she watches the Salvation Army empty out his room. And one of the workers finds his Bible amongst the stuff, and she gives that to Brooke. So Brooke cracks it open, and now the Spirit of the Lord can flow through her. And we transition over to Grace teaching about nonviolent protests, when Brooke asks her about the similarity to what Jesus said about loving your enemies. Right. Now, so the teacher, Melissa Joan Hart, is talking about Gandhi and Martin Luther King and somebody else. I don't remember. I don't remember the other one, but so Brooke asks if Jesus fits into that category. Right. And she answers yes. Right. No, so this is the crux of the movie. Yes. So let's make sure we get this absolutely correct. As Hillary explained, Brooke asks her if this is similar to what Jesus said about loving your enemies. Mm-hmm. Grace's response is exactly this. Yes. The writer of the Gospel of Matthew records Jesus as saying, "You have heard it said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you be children of your Father in heaven." And then she continues to talk about how Martin Luther King Jr. confessed to being inspired by Jesus and Gandhi. Right. Gandhi provided the method. Jesus provided the inspiration. Right. This is what Melissa Joan Hart has said in this movie. This is important to know. It is very important because this is what the movie hinges on. The entire movie is about that one moment. Right. So let's say, from the very jump, There's absolutely nothing wrong with what she said here.
Not at all.
And
no.
I cannot conceive.
As an atheist, I would be like, yes, that is accurate.
As a staunch, very staunch church-state separation person.
Me too.
I cannot imagine having a problem with this.
No.
There's not a thing in here.
Especially when you know she's doing, this is an AP
history class. And she was answering a question.
You
could say this without answering a question, but she was answering a question.
Yeah.
I would still be fine with it, because she presented it very clearly as a historical fact.
I'm very glad we agree on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I maybe wouldn't bring it up myself, because it would be a weird connection to draw.
But even, like, the wording is all that matters. Like, you're like, yes.
The writer of the Gospel of
is
Matthew records Jesus. That's just fact.
That's just fact.
It's a dispute of whether it is a fact, but it is a fact that this is recorded in the Gospel of Matthew by whoever the writer of it was.
Right.
It's not in dispute.
And it doesn't, even if you consider Jesus to be like a myth or like some form of mythology, it's still a story that has affected
exactly
Martin Luther King, which is important because that's exactly what they were talking about. Or just recognize it as a story that's important to this the idea of forgiveness and
nonviolence.
And nonviolence
it's
piece.
It's the whole thing. I want to be clear, the movie is based on this, and it's ridiculous from the start. And we're going to have to talk about it, but goddamn. I know, just like the last one, this is a philosophy class in which nothing like this would ever possibly be allowed to happen.
Right.
And this movie is based on a similarly ridiculous premise.
Right.
But I feel like this one's a little bit more ridiculous.
It is 100% more ridiculous.
Because it's so...
I don't even know, actually. They're both so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Both sides are presented as if the writers had never met a human. Anyway,
but we're only 16 minutes in, and we just have to acknowledge that this movie is bullshit. Okay? Got it?
Shit.
We're back to Martin. And he goes to talk to Pastor Dave to ask him some questions about God.
Martin is the Chinese fellow. And he is significantly less of an offensive caricature in this one than he was in the first one.
That's true.
Yeah.
He's still the very, like, quiet, reserved, sort of stereotype of a Chinese person.
Right.
But he's not the bumbling, awkward version of a Chinese person.
Right. Always serious.
Always serious. Serious. Yes, always serious.
Yeah.
But he pulls out a list of 147 questions.
Yes.
Which is kind of funny.
It is kind of funny.
Robin Givens, who plays the principal of the school, walks with Grace down a hallway and asks if this truly horrible event really happened. And Grace confesses because she's a good and honest Christian. She's brought before some lawyers to discuss any legal challenges they might have brushed up against. And she gets a rundown of events as everyone asks her what the hell was she thinking. Quoting one of the most important books in the entirety of Western civilization in a history class, especially after a student asked a question. Principal Givens tells Brooke not to talk to Grace at all for any reason because the teacher is under review. The principal is a real asshole about it.
Yeah.
And they should get into a fist fight, but being socialized to always listen to those who are in so-called positions of power is a strong motivator to not fist fight your principal.
Well, also, we've been talking about peaceful protests.
Yeah, but Brooke should totally punch her.
Agree to disagree.
It would be a better movie.
No, it wouldn't. Yeah, you're right, it would.
Something would have happened.
Anything.
Yeah.
You're right. I concede.
Grace now meets Jesse Metcalf, who plays Tom, her appointed lawyer.
We know Tom is not a typical lawyer because he wears corduroy.
Yeah, that came up a couple times, and I didn't really...
Yeah.
He looked like a lawyer to me.
I mean, anyone could look like a lawyer. You just are a lawyer, and you look like one.
I don't know. I guess he didn't wear the power suits, so we're supposed to think he's...
Yeah, he didn't look like, like the 80s idea of a lawyer, I guess, like the other guy eventually does. Yeah, so he has shoes that are a little bit scuffed, and he wears corduroy, so he's a cool lawyer.
Okay.
Laid back, maybe poor.
Right. He did work for the public defender's office, so yes.
So poor, yes.
Poor. He warns Grace that the entire case makes people uncomfortable, and no one even wants to take it, so that they're stuck with each other. The good news for her, he doesn't like to lose, and he's willing to fight for her. He is not a believer himself, but he thinks that this gives him an advantage in understanding the evil atheists of the ACLU that are the bad guys of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Pastor lover buddies take a moment to bond over his impending jury duty, while Grace prays about her circumstance. In the next scene, Grace is offered a deal by the school board, a disciplinary note in her file, and an apology from her with a promise to not discuss such matters in school again.
Right.
And she's let go. It's a big moment of truth, And Grace turns it down because she's going to stand up for her convictions and with her God.
Yep.
Despite Tom's warnings that it's the wrong decision.
It is the wrong decision. Also, it's only the wrong decision because I can get her not wanting to apologize because she hasn't done anything wrong.
Correct.
But she also has not defended herself in any way. She's...
Right.
The way she's dealing with it or explaining herself is that there's nothing wrong with having faith. We're like, no one's asking if it's wrong to have faith. We're saying, like, they're saying you can't talk about history in your history class.
Yeah, they are
like,
making a ridiculous point.
ridiculous.
But she's not even addressing it.
No, yeah, like she's not defending herself even slightly. She's like, she doesn't understand what's going on, and she sounds super dumb. She seems very dumb.
She always sounds like she's confused about the conversation. She's actively
She's so confused about how any of this is happening.
Yeah.
I can get being confused because you're like, why would you think that this is wrong?
Right.
But then you'd be like, well, if you think this is wrong, this is why you're wrong.
Right. That's what I mean.
But she's just like, well, they don't want me to have faith. They don't want me to, mention Jesus. And
she's not understandably confused about the ridiculous situation she's in.
Yeah.
She's confused about everything that happens.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Like, she can have a conversation, respond to you during the conversation, and still be confused about what's happening.
Right. The way this character is written, it's very hard to root for her, even though she's actually in the right.
Right.
And then Melissa Joan Hart's face is just perplexed from beginning to end.
But her and Tom discuss her options in the hallway because he's trying to convince her to take this deal. But she points out that she would rather stand with God and be judged by the world than stand with the world and be judged by God.
That's not your only two options. You can do both.
But while she's out of the room, the school board plots to throw her firmly under a bus. And so when she gets back, they do just that, allowing the ACLU to unleash their fury on Grace herself, because the school will be in the clear from all of this. We are now introduced to the evil Ray Wise of the ACLU.
Yep.
Who comes to Brooke's house to talk to her parents. And
just like a classic skeezy lawyer type.
Yes, he persuades them to pursue because it will look good for Brooke's college applications that she was part of a landmark civil rights case against an educational institute. Colleges love litigious children. That's just facts.
Especially against educational institutes.
Right.
Yes. What the hell? And the parents like, we're atheists. I can see this being beneficial to us.
It is hard to tell if we're supposed to interpret him as incredibly stupid or if he's just intentionally lying for his own purposes. I believe it's the latter, but he might just be an idiot. Because he took up this case, which is an idiotic case. So
right. Well, he's evil.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you're about to bring it up. His quote at the end of this conversation is, I might not get it exactly right, but after discussing with Brooke's parents how it's important that Brooke be a part of this so that she can get into a good college for being difficult, he says, I'm going to make sure everyone knows that God is dead.
Yes.
Which, where did that come from? That's never even what they're discussing.
Yeah,
what is happening?
I don't know.
Do you think they got to the end of writing this entire screenplay and realized, oh shit, we haven't said anything about God being dead. How are we going to call it God's Not Dead too? That's got to be it, right?
Yeah. This actually loops back to the very end, so this is going to be good.
Oh, good.
Remember this moment.
Oh,
We're coming back to it at the end.
I'll do my best.
But you're right. This has nothing to do with it, and it's not even how you would prove God is dead if you did.
Right.
It's just a whole thing. He also does point out to the parents that they should make a little extra money for the case, too, so it would help pay for an Ivy League school as well. Right. Because an Ivy League school would love to accept somebody who is willing to sue the school and make a lot of money so that they can then...
No, again.
I don't understand the logic, but that's fine. On the other side of things, Tom explains to Grace that if she loses, she will lose her teaching certificate.
Tom's lawyer, right?
Yes, Tom is Jesse Metcalf, the lawyer.
Just making sure.
She will lose her teaching certificate and all of her money. So they have no choice now but to win. And at this point, protests begin at the high school, led by Brooke herself. Pastor Dave goes through the paper, while his laptop goes through his jury duty orientation, especially because he doesn't expect to be selected to actually serve. You will not be surprised to find that Pastor Dave does end up on this jury, and it's the same jury as Grace's jury.
Yeah, and my favorite part about that is how confused he is that was even possible, because, to quote him,
He's got a better chance to
better
be struck by lightning.
chance to be struck by lightning. Now, I looked this up.
Did you?
I did. Because I knew that he was talking bullshit.
Yeah.
Because he's like, it's like, the way he phrased it was like a 1 in 300 chance of being chosen, which is wrong also. What is it, 9 jurors?
12.
12 jurors. That's right, 12 angry men. I should remember that.
Juries don't have to be 12 people, but they just the most common.
They typically are.
Yes.
And if there are 300 people getting chosen from...
then you have a 12 in 300 chance.
Exactly. So, that's incorrect. But then he said, like, statistically, you have a 1 in 960,000 chance of getting struck by lightning this year.
Okay.
If you were to, like, stretch it out for your entire lifetime, it's a 1 in 12,000 chance of getting struck by lightning.
Right.
Exponentially goes with, like, being struck twice or whatever.
Right.
But nowhere near
12 and 300.
12 and 300 at all. And so when he does inevitably get chosen for this jury, he goes, better chances of being struck by lightning. Like, you I
guess now he's got to dodge every lightning storm.
Yeah.
Because he's already beaten the odds. Now he knows.
Oh, man. Also, we already passed this point, but I have to point out another favorite part of mine, which was when we find out that Grace and her grandfather have a slightly contemptuous relationship and that she does not let him eat food.
Yeah. Good food. Good food.
Just no food. Because because she tried, like, he wants bacon at the beginning and she's like, no, because of your cholesterol. Then he tries to eat popcorn and her response is, with a glycemic index of 100? I don't think so. 1, popcorn does not have a glycemic index of 100. I didn't even have to look that up. It is a max 50. Maybe if it was caramel corn. Caramel corn would have closer to 100 for the glycemic index. But also, is she implying that he has both cholesterol issues and diabetes? Because those are the things you would be worried about. And he would look a lot worse, I think. A lot worse for an 82-year-old, as he says.
Yeah.
83.
No, he's 82. He said he's 81.
That's right. She says 82. He's an 82-year-old man. She won't let him eat popcorn.
Also, like, just eat some popcorn.
Also, just fucking pray for death at that point. Let the man eat bacon. He's dying.
I don't agree with Pat Boone about anything in this movie except for this point. If I am old or young and my doctor says, hey, you have to stop eating that thing you enjoy, I'm going to be like, hey, doc, I'm going to die.
Right.
Because I'm not going to stop eating bacon. Shit's good.
Yeah.
Like, if I shave 10 years of my life by eating bacon, guess what? I've eaten bacon and I'm really satisfied.
I've lived a better life.
I'd
rather live a fuller life for shorter time. Right. Yeah. Live fast, die hard.
And if I'm 80 years old,
I
don't give a fuck what my diet's gonna be.
I'm doing heroin.
Exactly.
Are you kidding me? I'm jumping out of planes. I am shooting up. I am speeding the fuck around in my Lambo. Ain't no one gonna stop me.
Right. But yes, you're right. She's weird with her grandpa. But now, after Pastor Dave, we catch up with Amy, who finds herself questioning everything, even though she was feeling so close to God before she was declared cancer-free.
All right, Annie.
Amy.
Amy's cancer girl.
Martin and Dave, Pastor Dave, talk again, and he brings even more questions, where Dave quotes some Bible over a montage of Grace dealing with her court case and all the attention that comes alongside it. ACLU guy confronts Tom and tells him that he truly hates what people like Grace stand for and what they're doing to society.
Yeah.
And he does his very, like, I'm evil and I'm a lawyer voice.
This is where you're supposed to be in the audience being like, this guy, there's a war on us.
A war on us, and he's
the
guy charging it.
There's no fucking war on you. Just enjoy your idiocy.
I'm skipping the jury selection part because we know that Pastor Dave got selected. But back in the courtroom with the official case having started, Ray Wise tells the jury, Ray Wise is the evil ACLU lawyer,
right?
Tells the jury that Christianity and God is not on trial. Only Grace, because she violated the separation of church and state by positively comparing Jesus with Gandhi. And Brooke's parents are wholly offended by the whole incident. Grace has made her beliefs on religion known. And that's just a bridge too far, don't you know?
Yep.
He points out that if we allow people to violate the law for our own personal beliefs, our society will crumble. And finally, he says something reasonable, because that part is at least true, although the context in which he's using it is ridiculous. But just for the words themselves, true.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Amy, the blogger, gets the video of Brooke protesting at school and being confronted by Principal Robin Givens, and she is now interested in meeting Brooke herself. That's just an interlude. Back in the courtroom, after the little interlude with Amy talking about Brooke, or talking to Brooke, I don't know. Back in the courtroom, Tom uses the Constitution as a defense, pointing out that the words separation of church and state are not in it. The phrase was first used in a letter, ironically, ensuring some Baptists that they would always be able to worship as they wished, but lately is being used against right and proper people and teachers of the year like Miss Grace Wesley.
Wrong.
They're trying to violate our most basic right, he says, the right to believe. Echoing Pat Boone earlier.
Yeah.
Brooke and Amy talk about the situation, because we keep cutting, and how her parents are mostly using it as a ploy to get her in a good school, maybe with some extra scratch to pay for it. Amy intends to get the story out there, to get it some play. I feel like you had something you wanted to say about Tom's argument.
Oh, just, yes, it's true. Thomas Jefferson was the first to actually say separation of church and state. It's not ironic that it was to a Baptist church, because that is half of the reason church and state separation exists.
The point is...
It's to protect churches from the government, as well as protecting the government from churches. Or, non-believers from believers, vice versa, however you want to say
However
it.
you want to phrase it, but that's, yes, that's exactly what it's
Yeah, and just because the phrase is not in there, but the First Amendment is the separation of church and state, essentially.
It's freedom of and from religion.
Yeah. So whether it says separation of church and state or not, the idea is in the Constitution, and it's generally accepted to be the separation of church and state.
You would be hard-pressed to make the case that it's not there in the First Amendment.
Right. Plus, there's probably, I would have to look it up, but there's got to be enough court cases that back it up.
I'm reasonably certain it's been established.
Yeah.
That, yes, it's just a thing.
So, not a good argument. Moving on.
Back in court again. Brooke's parents are on the stand, or her dad is. He's the first witness. He explains that the non-theistic rationalist worldview that they tried to raise Brooke with has been devastated by her teacher having a different opinion. Because, as you know, every good worldview is easily destroyed by one person you meet who thinks differently.
Exactly.
Yes. Next, the teacher who initially tried to help Grace because she's the head of the teachers union turns against her. She betrays Grace. She stabs her in the back, saying that Grace can't even chew a stick of gum without praying first, and it makes everyone uncomfortable.
I'm not gonna lie, this woman sounds like she should be the one who's getting in trouble for being religious at school.
Yeah, she has
everything about her.
Stereotype.
Yeah.
Tom counters by asking if she can cite a single incident of Grace praying, either in her personal life or in class or in any other known circumstance. And the traitor teacher can't even think of a single one. But over on Apex News, a news show in the movie that we're going to have to watch a bunch of times, Grace is being represented as a fundamentalist madwoman. Brooke watches this and she grows frustrated. On what is now, presumably, the second day of trial, we see Amy sitting in the gallery? Wherever the audience for a court.
Can't know. Don't know.
Principal Robin Givens testifies now about how the school is prepared to accept the court's decision, whatever it may be, as far as Grace continuing to teach. Tom talks about how the school she teaches at, Martin Luther King Junior High, leaves out MLK's title of Reverend. And Grace wouldn't even be allowed to directly cite his work because he was a religious man and openly admitted it in things like his letter from a Birmingham jail.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, he takes a metaphorical stab at the principal by pointing out they always teach diversity and tolerance, so long as it's not Christianity they're tolerating. And this is such a... So it's an obnoxious point to make, except in this case, it's actually true.
Not really.
In the movie's context, it's true.
Well, the movie's context. Okay, yes.
In real life, this is a thing that people often say. It's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, you can't even make an argument for it because it's so dumb that all you can say is fuck yourself.
It just makes me what I'm doing right now with the sounds,
right.
That's the best argument I can come up with. Not because there is no argument. It's because, that's so dumb. Mm-hmm. That is so not reality. Mm-hmm. No one fucking cares what you believe. Mm-hmm. No one cares that you pray alone.
Right.
We just don't want, teachers leading people kids in prayer because
during school hours.
That's what tolerance is.
Yes, during school hours. We had a thing in my school where teachers would lead students in prayer before school started. I don't give a fuck.
I was allowed to sit down for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, because you don't have to pledge allegiance.
No, you don't. And it makes me, I think it's a weird thing that we do. We probably don't need to put that out there right now. I don't need to have that kind of bite back.
Nope, keep it.
Cool. Fuck the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yep. But this stab that he takes at the diversity and tolerance issue pisses off even the judge, because he keeps injecting commentary where it doesn't belong. And the evil ACLU guy now brings up the time that the judge was invited by Grace to a church function while at work. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. He looks very excited because he's got her now.
Yep.
Church invited the principal to a church function while on school time.
Well, you know what?
Not the church function, that wasn't on school time.
Right.
Just, she invited her.
She mentioned the word church.
Yeah.
At her school once.
At her place of business.
Right.
Just so you know.
So prison.
She's fucked.
She's looking at prison time.
We are now in the parking lot, and Amy, the blogger, approaches Grace to talk about the case. Amy points out that they want to destroy her, and not just financially, but Grace hopes that it will all be worth it in the end. The pastor-lover buddies are out for food with a group of other pastors, and another guy comes in and says that a subpoena has come down demanding copies of all of their sermons for the last 3 months. Mm-hmm. They panic, of course, and Dave points out that today it's pressure, but tomorrow it's going to be persecution, because these people are desperate to be persecuted.
Desperate to be persecuted. I mean, it's true. That's the thing that happened. The subpoena to...
The Houston thing?
Right. Yeah, and it happened in a couple other cities, I think, too. Mm-hmm. But what they're not discussing is the why. Yeah,
because they're obviously misrepresenting it.
And the truth is, even in reality, I have a problem with there being a subpoena issued.
Right.
But in the context of the actual legislation that was going on at the time for LGBTQ rights, I can see both sides.
So what happened was one of the outside groups that was not working directly for the city, maybe but they weren't the city,
right,
submitted the subpoena, which was too broad and included these sermons.
Right.
The city, realizing this, corrected it to narrow the scope of the subpoena. So they already tried to correct the mistake that was not made necessarily by them, just on their behalf. Also, on the city side of the issue, the reason subpoena was sent in the first place was the church was advocating against this law that they were thinking of passing.
Right.
They sent people out to get signatures for their petition. And they needed to know whether they had given incorrect instructions to people in some sort of fraudulent or incorrect or unlawful manner.
Right.
To get these signatures.
And
that can be relevant from the pulpit, which is why the sermons were initially included in the subpoena.
Yes.
This is an obvious misrepresentation of a case that is complicated.
It is complicated. And sides can be made. Like points can be made on both sides.
Right.
And I can see both sides.
Mm-hmm.
This movie presents it as the government wants to know what they're talking about in their pulpits, and they want to control it.
Right.
Not the case.
Which is so fucking stupid.
Yeah, they give you no information whatsoever. They just leave you with...
It happened once, therefore it can happen.
Yeah, to incite fury from the viewers who refuse to do their own research.
Right. Moving forward, Grace and Tom talk about her faith, as Martin gets a visit from his stern businessman dad, and they argue about his newfound faith, and Dad slaps and disowns him. Mm-hmm. It was very, just slap! You're not my son!
Yeah, his dad came from China to tell him he can't worship God.
Right. Martin refused to back down, of course. Therefore, he got slapped and disowned.
Right.
Is a thing.
Yep.
Pastor Dave then tries to decide whether he will turn in his sermons, and Martin goes in and plays a sad piano song as Brooke comes into the church, and they meet for the first time, and they talk about her brother, and she gets saved, and is this time for a love connection?
No, he's Asian.
But it seems like a setup for one, right?
It seemed like if it were another movie.
Yeah,
but there was that one part of me that thought they would let them get together.
You're correct.
Yeah.
But it definitely seems like one in any other film. Because this movie is this movie, we know that there's no love connections. No one ever likes each other, period. Grace and Tom discuss strategy for their case and realize that they can change the strategy entirely if they can just prove that the stories in the Bible are historical facts.
It took way too long for the lawyer to come up with the plan
Right.
To defend the history teacher talking about history.
Right. But, yeah, allowing her to cite it in class as history because it's history. Grace gives us a nice line here. Every credible historian admits that Jesus existed. I mean, there's just too much evidence.
Yep.
This is not, obviously, the case.
No.
It is a controversy. I don't know how strong it is because I'm not a historian and I'm honestly not that interested.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Also, like, I don't think he didn't exist. That's not the argument I make against belief.
His existence has no bearing.
Yeah, honestly, if I was going to say what I think he did exist, definitely.
I lean that way.
I lean that way. Yeah.
It is a controversy amongst some people.
Yeah.
It is not one that I consider relevant.
Right.
But it's
the mythological stories based around him that I have a problem with.
Right. But it can be interesting. If there was ever a conclusion, I'd want to know.
Right.
Just because I want to know stuff.
Yeah.
I also know that more coconuts kill more people a year than sharks. Why do I know that? I don't know. I read it somewhere and it was a thing.
I love you for saying that because Sharks get a really bad rap. Jaws is one of my favorite movies of all time, but it definitely did not make people like sharks for as much as we should like sharks. Sharks
true.
are rad. They don't eat a lot of people.
So they're getting ready to prep for their new defense. And we get to see the real Lee fucking Strobel. Friend of the show. As well as...
That's a way to put it.
As well as author and subject of The Case for Christ, a movie that we've previously discussed.
Yes. This is the man who abandoned his family to prove his wife wrong, right?
Yes.
Yes. Great.
This is the real Lee Strobel in this movie.
Oh, I know.
That's him. That's what
obviously, because he's not an actor.
On the stand, Lee, is talking about the overwhelming historical evidence of Jesus. And he's even less convincing here than he was in The Case for Christ.
Yep.
And let's remember that was very unconvincing. He cites...
I just feeling that anger again for the same person, it felt like overkill for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't need to hate him more. I don't need to.
Hi, Lee. You're a friend.
Shut up. Fuck you.
He cites atheistic historian Gerd Ludemann, who claims that the death of Jesus through crucifixion is simply undeniable. Tom asks our friend Lee if his own Christian beliefs would make him inflate the evidence for his own purposes. And he says he has no need because the evidence is strong enough using exclusively secular sources to prove Jesus as a real historical figure.
But then doesn't cite those sources or really talk. Right. Again, there's no actual proof.
And as we talked about in The Case for Christ, and since that was a movie, it wasn't as thorough as his book, I can also confirm his book is not convincing.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's just whatever. Okay.
Have we fucking mentioned that the judge in this whole scenario is Ernie Hudson?
Yeah, I have not mentioned it. You're right. Ghostbuster.
Yeah,
Ernie
man.
Hudson.
And most recently, Grace and Frankie, because I fucking love that show.
Oh, I've never seen it.
It's so good.
Is he one of the husbands?
No, he is the boyfriend of Lily Tomlin eventually for a while.
Lily Tomlin is Grace or Frankie?
Frankie.
Okay.
Great show. Anyway, Ghostbusters. Ernie Hudson. What are you doing here, man? Get out of here. Beat it.
Yeah.
You're better than this.
Amy goes looking for Pastor Dave, but finds the African pastor guy whose name I have literally never known. Which is why I call him African pastor guy, because that's what his name is for me.
Yeah, have they even said his name?
I'm not sure. They talk about her struggle to believe even after her cancer disappeared. And he tells her that she's already a believer, which is why she can't simply shelve the thoughts away and abandon capital him.
Mm-hmm.
Because now she's fine and she should be able to shove it away if she wasn't already a believer, but she can't. And I have to admit, this isn't actually entirely unreasonable. And it was part of my own process for realizing that I am firmly not a believer because I got cancer.
Yes.
I went through chemo and radiation and it sucked and it was miserable.
Right.
And at the end of the entire experience, I realized that I had never once thought about God or wanted his help or thought, it didn't occur to me.
No prayer,
I was like, you know what's going to save me here? Medicine.
Yeah. It's either medicine or nothing.
And so that was when
it may or may not work, but it's going to be medicine.
Yeah. And that was when it was very clear to me that, oh boy, I do not believe this stuff. I'd already known that.
Yeah.
But it has been tested and proved at this point. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Meh.
No, makes sense to me.
Dave turns in his letter to the government bureaucrat that he's supposed to hand his sermons into, but it's just a letter about why he's not going to. And he's threatened by the same bureaucrat with the nail that sticks up gets hammered down.
Yeah, who said that again?
The bureaucrat. He went in and the guy was like, just drop your sermons there.
Oh, God, yeah. The guy who took it personally.
Took it real personal.
Yeah, this, like, low-level guy who's just, like, accepting the folders from people.
Right.
He takes it real personal.
Right.
That
when, in fact, we know
Mr. White and David A.R. White did not turn in his sermons.
Yeah.
Despite this. Yeah, this guy stands up and he threatens him.
Yeah.
The fuck?
Like, anyone who's been into a government office would know that this guy's just trying not to commit suicide. He does not care what you do. At all.
Yeah, he is struggling every day.
He lets him know. The nail that sticks up gets hammered down. And Pastor Dave has some sort of abdominal problem on his way out, but he continues onward to his court case.
Yeah, this is where my medical history will come in to play. Yes.
Okay. Do you want to tell us now or later?
Well, spoiler alert, he has appendicitis.
Yes.
We know this because he immediately, quick, just out of nowhere, sharp pain to his right side.
Right.
Then he just decides to go on with his day because it's important that he gets to that courthouse.
Right.
They need him there. Right. Where he subsequently passes out. Mm-hmm. Now, first of all, when you have appendicitis, it does not just start hurting where your appendix is. Mm-hmm. It starts as a general pain and a lot of puking. According to him, he puked once an hour ago when he passed out. Right. And they came to pick him up. That is not it. You puke for hours.
He would have been in great pain for days.
Pain for days, not localized. Mm-hmm. You don't know what that is for a long time. You get to the doctor hopefully in time to get it diagnosed.
Right.
Before it explodes.
Right.
But they can't really diagnose it. They just come in every hour or so, every half hour, every hour on the hour to poke your stomach and see if it's changed locations.
Right.
And for me, that took so long. It took so long for it to get localized that they thought that it had burst. So they had to go in through several different areas to make sure that I didn't have bits of appendix floating around, poisoning me.
Nice.
Yeah. He also is shown sitting up in his bed. That's not a thing you can do because your abdomen's been cut open. And when your stomach muscles have been cut, you cannot sit up to save your own life.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's when we find out Pastor Dave has appendicitis and his appendix is gone. And we also know that a huge protest is happening outside and people on both sides are yelling and screaming as an alternate juror comes in to fill Pastor Dave's spot. She is a pretty woman with pink hair and some piercings. And I only mention this because it is relevant for later. Next.
Wait. It's relevant for later and I don't know what it is, do I?
Spoilers for the very end. Hillary did not finish the
I did not exactly finish this movie.
But you're almost there.
I got so close. There's I think I missed the last 10 to 15 minutes.
Which is usually, I consider that a satisfactory performance. If women are telling me that they did not quite get there,
not
but so
there,
close.
But man, we tried.
So close. So close.
Not gonna lie, in this case, I did not enjoy one single second.
Yeah, I've heard that before. Next, in court, we call up James Warner Wallace, a retired detective who wrote Cold Case for Christianity, where he uses his expertise in cold cases to investigate the claims of the Bible. He says not a single cold case, in his experience, was solved with DNA evidence, and most of the real work is done by analyzing eyewitness testimony.
I would love to know more about this guy's actual history and the cases that he solved. What decades were they from?
I believe it was the 80s. Oh, no, sorry, he was working in the 80s, so they would have been before.
So before that. So DNA couldn't have, because DNA was not an option. But anyway.
But I'm not positive on that. I am somewhat familiar with this book, too. I'm pretty sure he was a detective in the 80s and 90s.
Gotcha.
But I am not. Don't hold me to that.
Oh, God. I don't want to make assumptions. But there is a very good chance this man put very innocent people in prison.
Yeah. But he says that analyzing eyewitness testimony is relevant to the death of Jesus at the hands of the Romans because you can look at the Gospels and determine that they were authentic eyewitness accounts.
Sure.
He goes further to claim that it's not likely to be a conspiracy because there's too many people conspiring for them to all be coordinating, especially as each of them was tortured and killed for their own beliefs and never recanted. Now, there is a fair amount of controversy about whether that part is even true.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever. I'm not interested in litigating it today.
I don't care anymore.
Right.
Just kill me.
The ACLU challenges him because he wrote a book reinforcing his own faith. But Wallace points out that he was an atheist when he began the book and is only a Christian now because of his high regard for evidence. Now, Brooke breaks in and claims that she's the sinner of this case and she should get a say, and the judge hesitantly allows her to testify.
This is where I wish we had a lawyer friend. Like, could this happen? Is this a thing? Can somebody just, like, burst into the room and then be called onto the stand?
I'm almost certain no.
I'm almost certain no, but again, I don't know law in that way, so...
But the ACL lawyer gives a sinister grin here, because even though he's the one that's been challenging Brooke's right to testify and didn't want her to, he's secretly been hoping for this the whole time.
Yes, but also another thing, it's pointed out that she is underage and her parents don't want her to testify. Mm-hmm. So can that happen? Can an underage person choose of their own volition to testify in a court case without their parents' permission? Yeah, that's another thing. If you're a lawyer, please write in and let us know.
That's right.
We'll put it on a corrections or omissions part later. I have to know.
Things left out.
I refuse to look it up.
In a things left out section.
Yeah, in the oops. In our oops section.
An ACL lawyer proves that he was right in hoping this would happen because he reveals the time that Brooke and Grace talked about Jesus that one time outside of class, and this ruins everything.
Yep.
Remember in the movie?
Man, he's pissed. Why didn't you tell me?
Tom tells Grace that they're going to lose this case, and she cries and leaves the courtroom. Pastor Dave watches from his hospital bed as the news.
Yeah.
As Grace cries in her bedroom and prays to not be forsaken by God. Sabrina, what has happened to you?
I'm so disappointed. But also, could not get a single tear out.
No, she couldn't. She talks to Pat Boone about how distant she feels from God, and he reassures her that the teacher is always quiet during the test.
Sure.
Supporters then show up at their door and they sing a hymn at her, and she doesn't immediately close the door in their faces because we all must endure this awkward shit show.
No one likes this. Stop it. I love Christmas. That's another weird thing about me. I fucking love it. Hate carolers. Is there anything more awkward than carolers coming to your door? You can't leave without being rude.
Mm-hmm. Also, and it's a movie, so we have to watch it.
Yeah, and they conveniently cut away before they show us how people do disperse from the situation. Because after you finish your song, you're just staring at each other. Like, you're in your doorway, they're in your yard. Do you just walk away?
I would have closed my door before they began.
Yeah, no, but I know you would have. But in the situation where you're trying to be polite, do you just go, Thank you.
Here's some money. Fight amongst yourselves.
Right, yeah, it's just
Throw
like,
change
do you
into the
guys
crowd.
want to come in? I don't want you to. There's a lot of you teenagers here. Yeah, they're all just holding candles and staring at her. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming they just kind of looked at each other and just dispersed slowly.
Yeah. We're supposed to feel good about this scene.
Oh.
Pat Boone joins in, everyone's singing, I clawed some of the skin off my face.
Melissa Joan Hart pretends to cry again.
She cries, I dies.
She make cry sounds without tears.
But it's over. And now we see Mike Huckabee doing a cameo.
Ugh, fuck off.
And he just has a stupid news show where he talks about stupid news things, stupid Mike Huckabee things. And Pastor Dave and his lover/friend talk about God's plan and how it's always working. Martin then comes in to visit Pastor Dave and has decided to become a minister in China, which is a pretty risky proposition, but he feels fully prepared to deal with the challenges to come.
Yeah, people tend to feel very confident in themselves in these kind of situations with no real reason to. He has no training. He barely understands Christianity. Yeah. He just asked 147 questions, and now he gets it enough to go to a communist country.
He had more after the 147 were answered.
Oh, right. Okay, so he had a little bit more than 147 questions, and now he gets it. And he can, for sure, preach.
Mm-hmm. But this whole scene is supposed to be heartwarming, I guess, but we close the scene with Mike Huckabee, and literally no one has ever felt warmth when Mike Huckabee is nearby. His wife.
Oh, I do.
His family.
My face gets real hot.
You're the only woman who's ever felt warm near Mike Huckabee.
No, because of the flames on the side of my face.
No, I know why.
Flames.
I'm just letting you know.
I am not. There are a lot of women that feel that way.
But the protests about the case rage on as Brooke goes into the courtroom to support Grace. Tom... Oh, this is the part you don't know. We're officially in the end game.
No, okay. Oh, no. Okay. Hold on. I'm going to prepare myself. I'm ready.
Did you see the Mike Huckabee cameo yourself?
I saw Mike Huckabee. I remember being mad that Mike Huckabee exists.
Perfect. Okay, so we are in the end game. We are now in the moments that Hillary did not see.
Okay, I'm living this real with you in real time.
The protests are continuing. Everyone's very upset. Mm-hmm. Grace is waiting in the courtroom alongside everyone else. And Tom is very late coming in.
Okay.
He shows up just as,
that seems like a poor choice.
Just the very nick of time. Like, the judge has everyone sit down, and he's like, are we missing somebody? And then Tom opens up the door, and he's ready. And he's in a full, 3-piece suit. He's got some nice shoes on. It's gray. He looks very snappy.
Okay. To prove what point?
He's ready now. He's in it.
Oh, he's a lawyer now.
He has a brand new attitude. He's cleaned up a bit, and he calls Grace to the stand. And he gets permission from the judge to treat her as a hostile witness.
Wait, what?
Because when he called her to the stand, she didn't want to. I don't want to testify.
Oh.
Because she doesn't want to defend herself. Why would she?
She hasn't so far. Why start now?
But he gets permission to treat her like a hostile witness because she was hesitant to testify.
Okay.
Shocking everyone, obviously. Literally, ACLU guy is like, what the fuck is he doing? What is happening? Mm-hmm. And the judge is like, if you want, I guess.
Ernie Hudson's like, I miss ghost busting.
So, Tom says to Grace, just say you're sorry and admit you made a mistake. Just do it. You have to do it. But Grace refuses because she doesn't believe that she did anything wrong. It would be a lie. But he says, so what? Everyone lies. Everyone in the room is confused at this. Obviously. It's very confusing. Tom insists that she tells them what she wants. And she says that it's just to tell the truth. He then calls her out for claiming in an earlier scene that Jesus spoke to her personally. Earlier when they were talking about her conversion story.
Right.
He then harkens back to an earlier scene where she was talking about her personal journey to Christ and calls her out for claiming in that scene that Jesus spoke personally to her. And she gets upset because he's using their personal conversations against her in front of everybody. After some very intense badgering, she reveals that the question that Jesus asked her, because she said, he asked him a question. He's like, tell us what it is. Tell us what it is. God damn it. I'll slap you in the face in front of everybody.
Stop
and
being
God.
So hostile.
Jesus asked Grace, who do you say that I am? And she replied that he is God. He's the Christ. You are the one, whatever the phrase is.
Yeah.
She quoted scripture at him. Tom then turns to the jury and insists that they find against Grace because in the name of tolerance and diversity, she must be destroyed, and that anyone employed by the federal government must declare any personal beliefs that they might have, and this needs to be enforced with fines, and ultimately, we all know enforcement comes at the end of a gun.
What the fuck is he on about?
He is, obviously, held in contempt of court, and he points out that he holds the entire court in contempt, and that if Christians' rights are subordinate to all other rights, then it's not a right, and the jury is sent to deliberate, keeping in mind that they have been dared to find against Grace by her own counsel. So we'll see. We see ACLU lawyer talking amongst his crew about how he wants to send the guy a thank you note, because despite all of this happening, everyone in the room in the movie is too stupid to see the obvious rhetorical tactic that he has used. Mm-hmm. You didn't see the scene.
No.
But even, it's not that complicated. He's making a point by pretending to be against Grace.
No, he's doing the psychological...
Yeah. And he dared them to find against her.
Reverse psychology.
Right.
That's what I was
Because his point is, if we can destroy Grace for barely... acknowledging her religious opinion in a class, then we can destroy all religious people for anything.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
Sure.
But no one in the room is able to see this, I guess. I don't know. The judge.
Yeah.
The other lawyers. The people in the gallery. Nobody.
It's still a terrible argument.
It's really bad, but
He's a terrible lawyer.
Because the audience of the movie, as we know, is smart and sophisticated, they can now feel superior to everybody in the fictional world of this ridiculous movie. Mm-hmm. Amy, the blogger and cancer woman, calls the newsboys again, and they pray for Grace on stage at their concert. I have one primary question at this point.
Okay.
if there are so few Christians in the world that this movie could be happening in the first place, how are these assholes playing a concert in a full stadium in the middle of the day? Because it's court is happening.
Right.
It's the middle of the day.
It is 11 a.m.
It is maybe 2 o'clock. But apparently there's so few Christians in the world that this could not possibly be happening.
Right.
If you remember in the last movie, I have 80 students in my class. I'm the only Christian in it. Fuck you.
That is bullshit.
And this movie would have us believe
right.
that the newsboys can fill a stadium in the middle of the day. But no one in the world would possibly be on Grace's side.
No. Persecution.
Persecution strong. So the jury comes in, and of course, Grace wins. As it turns out, the pink-haired woman with the tattoos and the piercings on her face.
Yeah, I knew she'd come back.
We find out she has a tattoo of a cross on the back of her neck.
Shut up. This fucking alternative-ass woman loves Jesus?
What?
But I had already judged her on her look.
The evil ACLU lawyer leaves in disgrace, and Tom apologizes to Grace for his elaborate plan and says that she's so amazing for standing up for her faith. Brooke goes outside to reveal the verdict, despite the fact that literally everybody in this courtroom has beat her out of the room. But she goes before everybody, and she declares, God's not dead.
Yep.
Because they had to bring it back.
Hey, relevant.
Now, here's the thing.
There should have been crickets in the room. Like, what the fuck is this lady talking about?
Yeah. It's literally, I believe this was a civil case, so literally she just says who wins.
Yeah.
But no, she's like, God's not dead! And the guardian's just like, whoa!
What the fuck? This is so lazy.
Now we're sitting through another Newsboys concerts, because these people insist on ending my life.
Yeah.
We also learn that the ACLU decides they don't want to try to appeal because that would risk setting a precedent. They lament being outfoxed by Tom with him playing their role. Oh, and also proving the existence of Jesus Christ as a historical figure.
It's proven. It's, yeah. It's been in court. It's been decided. A judge said God's not dead.
Yeah, that totally happened.
So can't argue that anymore.
The movie ends with yet another call to text everyone you know that God is still not dead.
No one fucking said God's dead.
Yeah. Well, the two people in the movie did. One was the bad guy, and one was Brooke, who brought it up out of nowhere.
Right. The bad guy lawyer said it in a personal conversation with just two people.
Yeah.
And then
Brooke brought it up randomly.
Not knowing that conversation even happened.
Okay, so she did know the conversation happened, because remember, he was talking to her parents, and she was, like, around the corner. So she did hear it.
That's right.
But
okay.
Even then, that's a bit of a stretch.
She's been really harping on that. And it's like, I remember what that guy said that one time in my living room.
Son of a bitch. All right, so the movie's over. Do you have any final thoughts?
I am grateful that I missed that last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
fair.
don't feel like...
you need to see it?
No, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for explaining it in a way to where I didn't have to see it.
I did as best I could. It's a mess.
It's a fucking mess.
My final thought for this movie is fuck this movie.
The writing of these movies is so lazy. Like, did they have, like, did they give themselves some sort of, like, time frame? Like, you have to finish this in 3 months.
I do have one final thought.
Okay.
It's something I think you said it earlier. This movie, it's weird for me because Grace is correct. Her side of the movie is correct.
Right.
It's an absurd premise, but at least in the context, she's right.
Right.
And it's still impossible to root for her because she's so insufferable.
Insufferable.
Now, everyone in this movie is insufferable. The lawyer is not better.
Right.
Well, Tom is, I like Tom.
Yeah.
He does his best.
Having the information you get at the beginning, like what starts this whole ball rolling,
mm-hmm.
It should be a pretty easy case to argue.
Yeah.
Because it's blatantly, she's not in the wrong.
Yeah.
So the fact that it takes another hour and 45 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever. So, best, worst. What's your best? What's your worst?
There's no fucking best. There's no best. It's the worst. This is the worst. This movie is the worst. I can't believe we're watching a third one.
Mm-hmm.
I may have to have you tell me about the third one. I may refuse. I may look you in the eyes and refuse to watch that movie.
A bit of a spoiler alert for the third one. You should see it. It is interesting, but on a meta level, less on a actual narrative level.
Well, that's intriguing. God damn it.
Yeah. You should want it's. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
The best for me in this movie is I mostly like Tom, the lawyer. Grace's lawyer. He's fine.
He's a terrible lawyer.
Yeah, he's a bad lawyer.
There's a reason he wears corduroy.
He's pretty. He gets the job done, so I don't know how terrible he can be. But it's fine. The worst of this movie is easily the entire premise.
Right.
After 16 minutes, you're like, oh, this movie's fucking absurd. Bye.
Absurd.
But that's fine. And that's all I got.
Yeah.
You want to talk about next week?
Sure.
All right, I'm handing you the magic card.
I'm scratching my eyeballs.
I'm handing you the magic card that'll tell us what we're doing next week.
Okay.
Tell us, Hillary.
Holy shit, we're doing Touched by an Angel.
Touched by an Angel.
I know what this is.
I never saw it.
I never did either.
But I am aware of it.
I know Della Reese died not that long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's the angel.
She's one of them.
To the best of my knowledge, Touched by an Angel is a show about angels giving people guidance in their lives.
Yeah, but they're like, aren't they real? Like, they're really...
Yeah, they're really angels.
You know, but they're like real people too. Like, people see them, they live, I don't know. This is like my guess.
I believe the angels are, yes, people you can interact with. They're not just pointing you in the right direction. They talk to you and give you advice and stuff. I don't know how they insert themselves into people's lives.
Right.
But I guess we'll find out.
We'll find out.
And as always, remember, if you like the show, please give us some of those 5-star reviews in whatever podcast app or service you are using, and make sure you tell your friends about us any way that you can. Links to everything are in the description of this episode, and please go to the website and send us a comment or question so we can have a mailbag segment.
Someone explain law to me.
All of it.
Yeah.
Just go through the whole law. Really long email. I'll read it. She'll read it.
Fix us.
Fix me.
Tell us what we did wrong. I would love to know.
And as always, thanks for listening.
Thank you so much.
We love you.
We love you so much.
Bye.